Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Palace fans throughout the world. Welcome once again to the Red and Blue Review as we look back on events at Selhurst Park yesterday as Palace took all 3 points against a Bournemouth side who were visiting us as we finish our season against the 3 promoted teams from last season, which is a rather a quirk of the fixture list. Joining me this evening on the show, we've got some great guests. We've got Mr. Tim Richards back with us. Back by popular demand from last week. I've got it down here. Is that right, Tim?
I doubt that very much. Hello, everyone. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Tim. Thanks for joining us again. And once again, we have the legend that is Mr. Jim Cannon, 600 on appearances for Crystal Palace. And Jim, we're honoured by you joining us on the Red and Blue Review. Of course, good evening. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. All the better for a good result yesterday.
Absolutely, yeah. And you were there in the ground yesterday?
Yes, I was, yeah.
Excellent. Good stuff. And making up the quartet this evening on the panel with me is Fergus Tidd. Ferg, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, all. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, Ian. Echo Jim's words. It's always good to come on the back of a win on the show.
And you were away last week. You're in Ireland, I believe. Is that right?
I was, yeah. I was watching the show in Ireland last week. And unfortunately, watching the game with a Spurs fan. So... bittersweet.
And tell us why you went to Ireland. What was that all about?
Dad's 80th birthday. So,
and here he is.
Oh, there he is.
Here he is. This is Paddy. This is Fergus, his old man. And you can actually see Ferg in the mirror there taking the picture. Happy birthday for last week to Paddy. Palace fan all his life and watching us live from Ireland. So I thought it was. I thought we're wishing him well on the show tonight from everyone at the Red and Blue Review. So that was good. So you had a good time, obviously.
I did, yes. Yeah, from what I can remember.
Good stuff. It's quite an evening. We've got lots of people joining us in the chat. So welcome everybody, one and all. And we'll come and we'll try and interact with your comments as we go through the evening tonight together. Quite an anniversary this weekend as well. Quite a milestone. 10 years since we celebrated that playoff semi-final win on the South Coast. And there is Wilfred Zaha, Dicker Joy Zaha, oh yes, single-handedly firing Palace to Wembley. I think the commentary was something along those lines, but I didn't think we should let this show pass without mentioning that great night. And there in the bottom left, we've got Ian Holloway, who was our manager, of course, back 10 years ago. And that will segue nicely into a special guest that we got joining us later on this evening. We have Jamie Groves joining us later after we've discussed the game from Goals for Gosh. And we'll tell you all about that. And Ian Holloway is involved in that. So really good. So let's cut to the chase. Let's get straight into the game from yesterday. So Fergus, you were with me yesterday. We travelled. We didn't travel together, did we? We normally travel together, but I saw you in the pub before the game, and we haven't spoken much afterwards. So tell us about the team selection first of all, and then let's get into the game. And Jim and Tim will join in as well.
Yeah, so there was obviously just one change. Hughesy came in for the injured Slup. So we kept our very attacking lineup, which was really good, and I think Hughesy's a great replacement for Slup. And as we go through the game, he was quite key. I thought he had an excellent game yesterday, as did all the players. Getting into. So I was going to mention just before, like the referee was Michael Salisbury, and I think the key person that we'll talk about later was the VAR guy, who was Andy Madley. But we'll get onto that. So the first 20 minutes, I guess. It was fairly edgy. I mean, Palace had the majority of the possession, but there wasn't any real chances to talk about. I guess the only real significant moment in the first 20 minutes was a potential penalty on Zaha when he was running into the box and the legs got tangled. At the time, I wasn't sure, but when I watched it back, I think it was probably a penalty, and I was a little bit surprised that wasn't reviewed. But can I moan about VAR? No, not really. After what happened a little bit later on, but yeah. So that was the only real chance in the first 20 minutes. I think it was just two teams that were safe in the Premier League, just feeling each other out. Palace being the more dominant. I'm going to mention something that happened in the 23rd minute. It wasn't massively significant, but it was Joel Ward, And I don't know if everyone saw it, but he did that sort of like drag the ball back, spin, beat a couple of players, passed it to Elise. And he did it. He had a run against West Ham down the wing, I think, against Suchek, where he just out sprinted him. His game has just come on leaps and bounds. I just think he's really, really improved just under Roy, just in the last sort of like 6 games. It's been an improvement.
How do we explain that then? Because, people earlier in the season were sort of screaming for a replacement at right back, really, in the January window, because people thought that both Klein and Ward weren't quite up to it. But Joel, I agree with you, Fergus. I think he's proven us wrong. It's like the autumn of his career, and he's found this extra gear. Jim, you've played in defence, not on. Well, you have played fullback. Does this happen often? Do you think? Do you see players like Wardy develop?
Well, I don't so much develop. I mean, if you took clippets of Wardy when he was 28 and what he does today, there's no difference. People tend to just categorise him because he's 32 and he's not your modern day attacking, spends 90% of the time in the other half, fullback. Yeah. That's the modern game. So he's an old-fashioned type of fullback. But there's not many people do it better than him. And I find it hard to even remember a bad game. The fans tend to get on. If somebody goes by him with a bit of pace, right away, he's losing his pace. But everybody gets beat at some point in the game by pace or positional play or whatever. So I think he's been one of our best players all season. Hasn't put a foot wrong. And I think under Roy probably would prefer him, I think, more to Klein. Klein is quicker, but I think Wardy gives us more going forward. Klein tends to give the ball away quite a lot. So I think it's like all the players that are playing at the moment, Roy seems to have given them the freedom to express themselves. Where under Patrick, whether it was because we weren't getting the results and people were in the shell a little bit, but certainly he's a flying machine, and that 360-degree drag back was absolutely brilliant. And fair duty, the fans loved it. So yeah.
Indeed, someone just said Mark Callaghan, best right back since Paul Hinshelwood, Jim.
Well, yeah, I suppose he's been, how long has he been in the first team now? 8 seasons, 10 seasons, whatever?
Well, yeah, 10 or 11, really. He had a period when he wasn't selected, when Aaron Wan-Bissaka got into the side, didn't he? And he was paid second fiddle to him. But, 10, 11 seasons, absolutely fantastic. Tim, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, I was just still on Wardy. I think what it's... because haven't been aware of until this season. The thing I've noticed with him this season is there have been several games where in the first half he's been playing a certain way and it hasn't worked or it's not been quite right. But he seems to have the intelligence that when he comes out in the second half, he will play a different way. The manager obviously speaks to him and is intelligent enough to pick that up and actually be more aggressive or play in a different way and bring something new, which I don't think all players can. So, I think he's been brilliant.
Thanks, Tim. We got a slight echo from you that wasn't there pre-show, so I'm not sure what that is, but hopefully it will go away. Okay, Fergus, sorry, back to you, mate.
Yeah, okay. 25th minute, Elise runs at Vina. He was doing that the whole game. That the guy, I think, is on loan from Roma, isn't he? So I think he's a pretty decent defender. But he was just having a nightmare with Elise the whole game. And I think eventually he got taken off because of it. But yeah, Elise, he runs past Vina again, crosses into the box. Kelly gets it away for Bournemouth, but it falls towards, and he finds Ayew in a box, and Ayew heads it wide. So decent chance.
Well wide, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well wide, yeah. And again, I think 26th minute, Elise on the outside of Vina again and cut him with his left foot, curled it across to the back of the box. Zaha's making that run in at the far post. He swings a boot at it, misses it, and I think the ball actually goes through his legs. I think it goes through his legs. Yeah, from 3 yards out. So, glaring miss by Zaha. It's very, very unlike him, but another good chance. And then, and I'll be interested to see what your guys' views are on this. So, 31st minute. So we get a corner. It's taken short, and then all of a sudden the ref blows up. There's a Bournemouth player down on the floor holding his face. Anderson's walking away looking a little bit sheepish. And then there's a VAR check for, I think, was it dangerous play or...
Yeah.
And the check goes, it's completed, and they carry on. But watching it back they had plenty to say about it on Match of the Day, didn't they? But, normally when I get home, I watch it back on the Sky highlights. And he was definitely, he closed his fist. He knew what he was doing. He hit him square on the nose, 1 inch punch. And apparently broke it. Apparently broke his nose.
Yeah.
According to their manager. But how he got away with that, I will never know.
Yeah.
I mean, that was straight red.
Comments in the chat saying walked into his fist. Someone says. Then Jones says Anderson was very lucky. Great hit from Zhao, says Dave Hart. But no, I think it was probably the right decision because I don't think there was intent there. I think he might have had his fist there, but it was, I don't know. I'm always seeing things through red and blue tinted spectacles, you know me. But Nick says Match of the Day spent more time on the punch than they did on the actual game, and certainly more time on the punch than they did on our goals. Look, we got a bit of an echo on here. I don't know what it is. Hopefully, it's not my end. I know. Normally, we're all right, but just test your thing when you're not speaking, guys, and mute yourself if you can. If you're not speaking, and we'll see if it goes away. So that was the 31st minute, Fergus, when Anderson got away with one. Yeah,
it was. And then 39th minute, Palace scored the first goal. Zaha, Hughes, and Ayew. That little combination, slick passing, sends it back to Zaha, and then he's down on the left. He's got 3 Bournemouth defenders around him, and he just does what he does best: cuts back, crosses the ball low. Ayew gets the slightest of touches, but he does deflect the ball very slightly, and leaves Eze with an open goal just to smash it into the net, past Neto in goal. Great finish. I don't know if someone can tell me how many passes we had leading up to that, because it was quite a good build-up to the goal.
I would suggest there was about 8 or 9 passes prior to that. There were quite a few down the left-hand side before Wilf weaved his magic. And I couldn't believe he didn't get the assist. So my social media post said Wilf's assist. It wasn't his assist at all. It was Jordan who got a flick on. And got the
it was just enough on it. Enough on it.
But it was not dissimilar. I don't want to spend any time on this yet. Do you remember when Newcastle beat Everton? Isak's run down the left-hand side, absolutely brilliant. And someone else did the same to him, and he didn't get the assist. So, Nigel, producer guy.
Every outfield player touched that ball in the build-up to that goal.
Did they?
That was on the commentary yesterday afternoon.
Oh, that's not dissimilar to that one we scored at Anfield when we went 1-0 up and then lost 4-3. Remember that a few seasons back.
And also the Brighton goal last year.
Yeah, Brighton, I was going to say.
Yeah, of course, that goal. Yeah, of course. I forgot about that one. Yeah, good stuff.
See you later.
See you later, tonight. He likes to do this occasionally. He just pops in. So, Jim, what was it like in the director's box? Were you all jumping up and down and hugging each other at that point?
Not so much as we did against West Ham. It was, you just got the impression that we felt we were going to win the game. They offered nothing. So they were all up and obviously enjoying the moment, but it wasn't as tense as a couple of games before where getting a goal was like winning the lottery, really, wasn't it? So.
There was almost an expectation, wasn't there, yesterday? I mean, I'm sure the players didn't go out expecting to win as a given, but I think there was an element of Bournemouth. They still had to be beaten, but there was an element of Bournemouth on 39 points, not quite on the beach, but thinking about it. They've almost done enough. We still had to beat them. We still had to play good football. But up until the point when we scored, we were the better team by distance. They didn't even look like scoring, did they, Bournemouth? We bossed it big time. So when we did score, it wasn't unexpected. It was all we deserved and more, really. Fergus, there was another chance, wasn't there, towards the end of the first half, which I'm sure you're going to come to.
Yeah, so this is Anderson. So when he hits that long rasping ball right across the pitch, Zaha first touch, superb. And then he goes bursting down that left flank, cuts inside, has a shot. And normally 9 times out of 10, we see them nestling in the back of the net, don't we? He scored quite a few like that, but unfortunately it's gone the other side of the post. So, unfortunate. It would have been nice to go in 2-0 up. I think then it might have been a bit of a cricket score then, but I think Bournemouth were, at half time, they were probably thinking they were quite lucky to be going in at 1-0 because we did dominate the game.
Yeah, we did.
They offered nothing really.
Yeah. And Tim, you watched the game on a stream. Watching it on a stream is different to watching it in the stadium. Is there anything you'd want to add? You're muted at the moment.
Yeah, it was the first thing I want to say is how amazing the crowd sounded. Considering it's towards the end of the season, nothing really to play for, as in we're perfectly safe. The atmosphere, Wendy was watching it with me, and the atmosphere sounded amazing. And the game, it would have been very easy for us, even at 1-0, just to sit back, nothing to play for. But I've got to say, it's the way we kept going, the kind of football we were playing. Yes, I know it was against Bournemouth. Yes, I know they weren't very good. But you still got to turn up. You still got to put the effort in. You're getting paid a lot of money to play there. And I was so pleased, especially if you think about the season we've had, getting rid of Patrick, what a lot of us said at the time, and how we were being dragged into a relegation zone. If you'd said back then, the last couple of games, you get 2 wins, joint highest point total, considering the season we've had, it's a great season.
Absolutely. Facebook user, we were Brazil yesterday, and the amount of passes over the 90 minutes. If that was Man City, there'd be, I think, men drooling on Match of the Day, but no, only interested in the Anderson incident. So on to the second half then, Ferg.
Yeah, so second half. So the first real opportunity from a corner, and it's hit low, and Wardy stoops really low, heads the ball out towards the edge of the box, and Hughes is there on the volley. And it looks more of a straightforward save. I think it was a great save by the keeper, but I think it made it more difficult because it just went through a group of players. So I don't think he saw it until quite late. So it was probably a better save than we're given credit for. But yeah, great chance by Hughes. Superb first-time volley. He hasn't scored for Palace, I don't think, in the Premier League, has he?
No, he hasn't.
So
no. They made that point on Match of the Day.
Yeah, I just think it'd be great to see him get a goal in the next couple of games if he's playing, if Slap's not back.
He almost struck it too well, didn't he? Do you know what I mean by that? Left-footed on the volley, perfect, absolutely perfect connection. Yeah, if he just misses it slightly and it cuts off at a slight angle, it probably goes in. Would you hold with that, Jim? Did he hit it too well, Hughesy, for that volley?
I mean, as far as he's concerned, he hit a perfect strike, but it was just possibly too near the keeper. If he'd have cut across it maybe and put a bit of spin on it, it might have ended up in the top corner. But I'm sure he was quite pleased with it. But he obviously would have liked the goal. But it got a nice roar from the fans.
It did, didn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good stuff.
So. And then a minute later is when this is where I got quite emotional. I'll be quite honest with you. When Zaha went down, he was holding his hamstrings and he was calling for the medic straight away. So I think he knew his game was done. And then just the reception that he got from the whole ground, but obviously he walked past the Arthur Waite and the Homestale. And you just wonder whether that's actually going to be his last game in a Palace shirt. So yeah, sad. If it is, it'd be a sad ending for him. But he's just been a magnificent servant for the club.
Absolutely. I mean, I must confess, I didn't get emotional because I don't think it will be the last time we see him. And I'm not going to tell you why just now because we're talking about the game, but I think we'll see Wilf again somehow. But yeah, there we are. So you got emotional, did you, Ferg?
I did get emotional, yeah, because it's almost a lifetime, isn't he? He's been at the club, he's come through the youth,
almost as long as Jim played, I mean, almost as long,
Yeah, it's just if it is his last game, it'd be a shame to go out like that. Scoring a hat-trick against Forest last game of the season, that's what you want.
Yeah, let's just stop you there for it. Jim, do you remember your last game?
Yeah, I remember it well. We played Man City. I think there was about 18,000 there, and we won 2-0. But Steve Coppell obviously knew he was going to let me go because he let me go. Went in to see him on the Monday, and I just thought, well, why didn't you tell me before the week? Bearing in mind, I'd been there 18 years and spent all that time from a young 15-year-old when I come down on trial, and just to do that. And I've always respected him, but I didn't respect him for that.
No.
I could have walked around the ground and said my goodbyes, but no, I was gone. And that's the only. I wasn't worried about not being there. Don't get me wrong. To tell you the truth, I'd become a bit stale in my mind. I was like not that content with things, but I just felt that he could have handled the situation better. And it's the only thing that I ever look back on thinking I would have just liked to have said cheerio. But he never gave me the chance. But I think maybe he was just frightened to tell me that he didn't want to sign me again. So,
he was younger than you, wasn't he?
Yeah. Steve he's about 4 years younger than me. So yeah.
He was. He is younger than you. Yeah. I guess maybe let's not go there too much tonight. But maybe the naivety of a young manager. But I hear what you're saying, and I've heard you say that before. Actually, now you mention it again tonight. But yeah, I think it's probably a bit different these days. So but having said that, of course, if Fergus is right and Wilf is injured for the rest of the season and he goes, then Wilf has hardly said a goodbye properly, is he? Really? He's hobbled off. That's not a goodbye, is it? So. No,
not really. But then he'll be there the last game of the season. I mean, he's not going. I would doubt very much he'll play. If he's got a hamstring, he's finished this season. But he'll be there. He can wander around. We got the last game at home. He can wander around the stadium, and if he feels that he's saying farewell, he can do that. But I've got a feeling he won't go. Plus he's getting these injuries as well now. Teams look at. He'll be 31, I think, this year. Yes. And teams look at that. That's 2 hamstrings and a groin in the last 8 weeks, 2 months. So unfortunately, time catches up with you as a professional sports person, and
Indeed.
it's something that maybe teams will look at. So I'd love him to stay. I mean, with the players we've got, and then he'll be the older generation, but he still gets you off your seat, doesn't it? So.
Absolutely. Right, Jim, we're going to move on, do the rest of the game. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time. But if we've got time, we'll come back to this Wilfried Zaha issue towards the end of the show. So, Fergus, back to you, my friend.
Yeah, okay. So there was a couple of chances after that. I think Elise had a shot that curled well over. And then, again, down the right flank. And a low cross into the box. And I think it was cleared by a Bournemouth defender, Mepham, I think. And if he hadn't have done that, IU was waiting in the background just to tap it in. So a couple of chances. Then the 58th minute, Eze scores his second goal. Well, I mean, again, just absolutely sublime. And I know people are sort of saying if this was Man City, Liverpool, they'd be cooing over themselves. But it was just such a fantastic ball from Elise across the park from his own half. The first touch from Eze, superb, brings it down, and then he just cuts across the face of the area and smashes it into the top corner. And I don't know, you can't see it in that frame, but there was actually 6 Bournemouth players around him when he had that shot, I think. It was just, they were all drawn to him, and he still managed to get a shot off and score top corner. Absolutely brilliant goal. And that's his 10th goal of the season. It was Elise's 10th assist for the season, which I think is a record for Palace. I don't know how many Conor Gallagher got last year. I think it was 9, wasn't it? I think it was. So I think Elise he's set a new record at Palace already for the most assists in a season.
Premier League season, I think.
Premier League season, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if you're going to come in and just, put your comments on the goal, but
Eulogise over the goal.
Eulogise it, absolutely, yeah.
The pass, the Elise pass was amazing.
It was sensational. Yeah.
Indeed. Tim, your thoughts on the goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the pleasing thing yesterday, was just the calibre of approach play. Doucouré, for me, is our probably player of the season. The way he's developed his first season in the Premier League, the way the last few games he's bossed the middle, but the goal, yeah, I mean, the pass from Elise, I mean, world-class pass. But it was the movement of the other players to allow Eze the space to do his run. That's, for me, the pleasing thing this season. It's not only the goal or the way they're playing, but how the other players, like Hughes coming in yesterday, what a performance, and hardly played this year, but still to be able to come on and do that level of performance. So yeah, the goal was world class. But Wardy, the all-round play, especially the last few weeks, amazing what confidence does for a team, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep. So we're 2-0 up and sort of cruising, aren't we then?
We are, yeah, and I don't think we took our foot off the gas, so to speak, but we were comfortable. Bournemouth made 3 changes around the 60th minute. One of those was Vina. They took off. He was the one that was getting roasted by Elise all the time. So I think they had to change it because they knew that a chance of conceding more goals. Elise had a shot in the 70th minute. Neto, straight at Neto. 77th minute, Riedewald comes on for Hughes, and I'm mentioning that because 2 minutes later, he makes an instant impact, doesn't he? He has a shot at goal, and it manages to go all the way across the goal and out for a throw-on, which the crowd loved. Yeah, so that was funny. And then the 81st minute, MacArthur comes on for Doucouré to a great reception. Everyone's singing his name. Must have been good for him. It was good to see him back. And I don't know if we're going to talk about players that might be leaving the club, but he's obviously one of them.
Yes.
And then I think Bournemouth's first opportunity, really, 85th minute, to potentially get a shot on target. Cook, he had a free kick from distance, and it just went sailing up into the White Horse Lane end, didn't it? Up into the executive boxes. And to the cheers of the Palace fans, and what the hell was that? Singing around the ground. I won't repeat the exact words, but
absolutely.
And then we've seen the game out. First yellow was in the 96th minute for Lerma, kick on Eze, and then Brooks got a yellow. Second yellow for bundling over Ayew, and then right at the end, Eze has a free kick just on the left of the 18-yard box for a hat trick, but he puts it over. So, and that's it. End of the game. I think it was a really great performance for Palace. They bossed the whole game. Quite comfortable. I know Nigel's going to put the stats up, but yeah, I mean, it was just so one-sided according to the stats. 60% possession, 17 shots to their 5 on target for us, none for Bournemouth, 11 corners to their 2, 5 fouls to their 12, and it should have really been 6 with Anderson, but he managed to get away with that.
Thank you, Fergus. Thank you. Dirty Bournemouth, twice as many fouls as us, up from the South Coast. I was talking to a couple of their fans on the way back, and they have been bankrolled. It's spent between 50 and 70 million, I think, in the January window. And their model of American investors is not dissimilar to our own. We probably haven't got time to look at that in any detail tonight, but they're a club that mean to stay and do business in the Premier League, having gone down, having been there previously. Now, great, thanks, guys. we can talk. We can come back and talk more about the game a little bit later on. But I'm conscious of time. We've got a special guest this evening that I want to introduce you to you all in the chat if you're watching. So with me tonight, welcome Jamie Groves to the Red and Blue Review.
Thank you.
How are you tonight, mate?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on.
That's good. Now Jamie is here because Jamie is the main organizer of a charity game that's going to be at Selhurst in a couple of weeks' time on the 29th of May. It's the Bank Holiday Monday after the Forest game, and Jamie's going to tell us more about that in a minute. And the reason I really wanted to get involved in this and to invite Jamie on is because of this young lady. Now, this, guys, and I could get emotional now, this is my youngest granddaughter. Her name is Libby to her mates. And that's her today. She looks much better today than she did when she was in Great Ormond Street. Now, she's got a rare condition that she is treated for, and she visits Great Ormond Street. In fact, she's back there tomorrow with my daughter, her mum, and she's fine. She acts like a normal little toddler. You wouldn't really know to look at her, but she has got this condition to do with her lymph system that is extremely rare. It's really, some of the doctors had never seen it before in the UK. Had to have American influence on it and everything like that. And she was in both Evelina in London, which is the children's hospital attached to St Thomas's, where she was blue lighted to, where they saved her life. And then they moved her to Great Ormond Street in 2021. And she was in hospital for a total of 103 days. So Great Ormond Street were brilliant. They're very dear to our heart. And Jamie feels the same. Because, Jamie, you've got a story yourself, haven't you, with your family?
I have, yeah. So it's about 18 years ago, I got twin cousins. Unfortunately, one passed away at 3 months old. But Great Ormond Street did everything they could to help my other cousin survive. So my cousin is still actually being treated for one reason or another, even to this day. But going back, they did save her life. Charlotte, who co-organises Goals for Gosh with me, she had her little daughter weeks prematurely. So again, they helped her. So it's really sort of personal to her as well. I've got many friends, one in particular, he's been a great supporter for the last couple of years with Goals for Gosh. He lived in Hong Kong. I met him in Hong Kong. Unfortunately, his little girl had an eyesight problem. And Great Ormond Street and the family got in contact, and he moved his life back from Hong Kong to the UK, and Great Ormond Street saved her eyesight. So there's many stories that are connected, not just to me, to friends, and even to some of the players that are taking part in the event as well.
So brilliant. Thanks, Jamie. So tell us a little bit about the event then, how it all started, and what motivated you, isn't you need to tell us anymore, to get involved in this.
It started 2021. So I had this crazy idea 6 weeks prior to the game that I wanted to hold basically a charity football game. During the pandemic, I helped supply PPE to one of the actors, Tamer Hassan. And from there, he obviously got a good connection with some of the celebrities, some ex-pros, etc. He helped me with about 4 or 5 players, and word just spread. We managed to get actors, comedians, ex-professional footballers, and so on and so on. And this is the 3rd year we're doing it now, and we are getting even more players who want to get involved. Last year and this year, I've had to turn players away just because the squads are completely rammed. You'll see this year that Ian Holloway is going to be one of the managers, which we're like over the moon about. We've got former Crystal Palace winger Wayne Routledge, who's also taking part. So that this game, there's 3 parts to this year's event. So the main event starts at 6:30 kickoff, where you'll see Ian Holloway, Anton Ferdinand, Jay Bothroyd, Jan Sanderson, Tamer Hassan. Those that love Island, you'll see a few reality TV stars, Luca Bish, Ron Hall, and in the afternoon, we've got an All-Stars tournament, which is a new thing. It starts at 3:00. There's 4 teams. 2 of the teams are mixed between celebrities, ex-pros, and some parents or guardians that have or still have their children under the care of Gosh. And they're taking on, there's one team that is going to be captained by Tam Hassan, and there's also going to be an ex-Crystal Palace player, Adrian Mariappa, playing as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
fingers crossed. He actually messaged me the other day. He said, I'm going to be there, hopefully hungover. So if Salford City get to the playoff final and they win it, then it's the day after the playoffs. So
Is
yeah,
that right?
he'll be there.
And someone said in the chat that is Big Jim playing. So, Jim,
I'd love to play, but my legs wouldn't. I've got a bad back at the moment anyway, but my legs just wouldn't. My lungs wouldn't work. So
we will have to give up at some point. So there's quite an array of stars you got there. So how did you get the word out to these? Not just the ex-professional footballers, but the celebrities. The people that have been on TV and all the rest of it.
It's probably started with Tam Hassan, and then he spoke to a few people, and then it was just me pestering people. The way of social media these days, I would email them, I would go into their inbox on Instagram or Facebook, and then just hoping that someone would reply, and they do reply, or contacting their agents via email, and then just getting a response that way. And then what I found is they all speak to each other. So I have had people come to me saying, I want to be a part of it, or they've got a story. So we have one footballer this year who reached out to us, and she had a story, and she's taking part. So yeah, it's amazing. Everyone just comes together and they want to support each other, and it does. Whether it's connected to them personally, I think it seems to me that everybody knows somebody that's had a dealing with Great Ormond Street or the NHS, because the NHS have played a massive part. And me and Charlotte have been quite lucky to be recognised for things that we've done. We're now official Great Ormond Street ambassadors as well.
Wow, brilliant!
Which is amazing. It's not just the football that we do. I recently ran the Brighton and London Marathon for Great Ormond Street. It's 2 marathons in 3 weeks. That was painful, I tell you.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, at Christmas time as well, I had a FaceTime call from Cesc Fabregas. So he knew we were nominated for, it was Cheers for Christmas campaign. So it's like a hero within the community. He rang me, and him and his football club donated £10,000 towards Great Ormond Street for doing what we're doing. So I'd say it's not just the UK, we're getting around Europe. So it's a good thing.
That's fantastic. So do you know how much money you've raised in those 3 years?
Yeah, so this is our 3rd year. I think an estimate we're about 85,000 pounds.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So
and have you don't have to tell us this, but have you got a target in mind for the event at Selhurst Park that you'd like to raise?
Do you know what? I've always said that every penny counts. We would love to break that £100,000, so like another £15,000 to £20,000. I think we're pretty much almost there before we even kicked the ball. We get a lot of support from sponsors, from families, friends, you name it. We're getting so much support. I've had 3 friends that have just taken on a challenge in the Nepal challenge, like climbing the mountain up there, and they've raised around £9,000 and teamed up with Goals for Gosh and Great Ormond Street. So
excellent.
Yeah.
If you've got a question for Jamie and you want to ask it in the chat, then do quickly. There's a lot of love for you already there, Jamie. I can see people saying well done, great work. So thank you so much. And I suppose when you do have a member of your close family that is under Great Ormond Street, it does resonate, and it does mean that you realise what great work they do. I mean, my wife and I used to visit every weekend. I think we worked out we did 13 weekends on the trot when we took the big girls, Libby's elder sisters, to see her younger sister, and for the parents to swap over, because when someone's that age, she was 15, 16 months, one of the parents had to be with her the whole time. So the daughter and son-in-law had a week on, week off. It was a tough old time for us as a family. And Libby, she's, as I said earlier, she sort of seems fine in herself, but she's being treated all the time, and she's not quite out of the woods. So but we're very grateful for her, obviously. I wasn't so grateful for her last night about 1 a.m, because they stayed over last night, and she wanted to play with me and talk to me at 1 a.m, saying, I'm awake. She was singing, but you wouldn't have it any other way, would you? You know, so
No, of course
good
not.
stuff.
Of course. No.
Listen, it's brilliant. How do people watching this, how do Palace fans buy tickets? We've got it across the bottom of the screen there, but what's the easiest way of buying tickets, Jamie?
You got that way there. You've also got, if you follow us on Instagram at Goals for Gosh or Facebook, you'll see a link in our bio, and you just click there. You can donate, or you can buy your tickets as well. We haven't released it yet, but I'll tell you here, those that can't make the game, that it will be streamed live as well on our YouTube. It'll be on our platforms, and you can pay on the gate. It would be card payment only, but we would appreciate. We've only got limited capacity, unfortunately, so we don't have the whole stadium. So if you buy your tickets in advance, just to avoid any disappointment. And I must say, an amazing thing, a big sort of thank you to Crystal Palace. So me and Charlotte are going to be invited to an executive box. We are sponsoring the Crystal Palace v Nottingham Forest game. So we will be on the pitch just before kickoff. We'll be in the programme. So yeah, we're excited for that as well. So.
Excellent. We'll look out for you at the Forest game for sure. Anything any of the other three on the panel want to add to this? Any comments?
No, great cause, Jamie. I'll come up. If you've got one of the boxes, I'll come up and have a chat with you at the Forest game. I'll find out what will the box be under. What, your name or?
You'll be under Goals for Gosh. I think we're in box. I was there the other day. I think they're giving us box 10 and 11.
Okay. Well, I mean, the lads come round anyway, but if Finn Soler and John Shalaka are there, I'll bring them up.
Thank you so much. That'd be great.
That's fantastic, Jim. That was brilliant. And I hope that the people in the box, they're going to good, recipients of people that.
We've got they're going to some of the players that are taking part in the game, sort of the following evening, and then there's people that have donated through Great Ormond Street, so they've got some spots as well. Some of our sponsors, and we're inviting people from Great Ormond Street, and even on the day we're going to have mascots that children from Great Ormond Street or have been under the care of Great Ormond Street. There'll be Great Ormond Street volunteers there, Bernard the Bear, the mascot. We've got so much going on: face painters, live music, arts and crafts. It's not just about football. It's a big family event. So that's what we're trying to make it.
I think Libby's a bit young to be a mascot. I think it would phase her a bit. She's only 3, but maybe next year. Who knows? Tim, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, no, it's quite dear to my heart as well. I've spent a bit of time in Great Ormond Street myself when I was younger. So, yeah, I've seen stuff firsthand that goes on there. So anything that can be done to help them is amazing, if you ask me.
Yeah, thank you. And Colin Squires says in the chat, black taxis give Gosh patients free rides to that hospital. I think it doesn't happen every time, but a lot of the time it does. My daughter's certainly been a recipient of it. When you get out the station and you say Great Ormond Street, it's almost like an unwritten rule amongst cabbies. Don't charge. So amazing.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Right, I coughed at the wrong moment there. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank
really
you.
good to have you on the show. And we look forward to the game. Can't wait. Really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, best
Cheers.
of luck, Jamie.
Jamie.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Right, one other thing I want to talk about tonight very briefly is to give this a quick plug, is the DSA AGM and social evening on the 10th of June. We've had Bruce on the show before now. So this is open to anyone. There'll be players there. I think, Jim, you're going along to this. Is that right?
Well, I missed that.
You're coming along to this event on the 10th of June. Is that right?
10th of June. Tell me what it is. When you start coughing.
Yeah, I know. It's at Sellers. It's in Speroni's. But we put that up so everyone's got the information. Right.
No, I'm not.
I'm losing my voice. Ferg, talk to us about the pre-season tour.
Oh, right. Which one? So yeah, Chicago and Detroit. 25th to the 31st, I think. Yeah. So obviously you can see we're playing. Is it Millennials and Sevilla? I think they're the Colombian champions, and obviously Sevilla we know from Spain. But yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the people I went on tour with last year, I met at the game yesterday, and they've already booked their tickets, their flights, their hotels, and their travel, which is pretty amazing. But yeah, I've still got to broach the subject with the other half to see.
I see. Okay, we've
see how the land lies.
We've lost Jim during that moment, so hopefully he's going to come back. If you're watching, Nick Philpott, can you just give Jim a nudge and tell him he's welcome to come back on the show? Maybe his connection went. But yeah, so Crystal Palace travel to Chicago and Detroit to face European heavyweight Sevilla and South American outfit Millonarios, I think that's how you say it, in two high-profile pre-season fixtures at the end of July. The Eagles will be touring stateside for the first time since the summer of 2016, following the success of last year's landmark trip to Singapore and Australia. They're 15-time league champions in Colombia, the Millonarios, and that game will be on the 26th of July. And then we play Sevilla on the 30th of July, I think. So if you're thinking of going, get it all booked up. There'll be a good contingent out there travelling from the UK. And, of course, plenty of Palace fans stateside. Lots of Palace fans watch the games over there live all over America, we're told. Jim, you're back with us. It's almost a different Jim. There we are.
On my phone. I mean, I don't know what happened. It just disappeared.
I'm
on my phone. I've had to go on my phone, so...
You're fine. You're there. What with your connection and my voice, we're not doing too well tonight, but never mind. We'll try and carry on. Yeah, so we're just talking about the pre-season tour, and now Fergus disappeared. So, oh my goodness me.
Hang on, I'm just going to switch the lights on. So
it's like a circus tonight, but never mind. Just proves that it's all live. There's nothing rehearsed about this at all. So there we go. Right, talk about the other teams at the club, the under-21s. They face the PSV side in the Premier League International Cup on Tuesday, the 23rd of May. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff at Sellers Park. The tickets are now on sale. They're just a £5 or £1 for under 16s. And Academy Founder members are able to attend for free. So if you're an Academy Founder member, you can get into that one for nothing. And then the under 15s, last Friday evening, they won the under-15 Floodlit Cup national final after a 3-1 victory against Stoke City. And this was a still of the second goal, I think it was, when this guy, Okoli, I think you say his surname, and he scored from his own half. I think that picture doesn't do it justice, but he's in the middle there. The keeper's off his line. He chips in from his own half. Amazing. So congratulations to the young lads there, national champions. The future is bright. The future is red and blue. And then with the news of the women's set up this week, they finished their season, but welcome to the club to Grace Williams, the new head of women's football at Crystal Palace. So welcome, Grace.
Oh, he's off again. Bless him.
Oh, dear. I've lost my voice completely. Right. Okay. Somebody else take over. Someone else talk about something. What do you want to talk about, Jim? Talk about the player of the year. Who's going to be our
player of the year? Who's going to be the player of the year? If you can remember the early part of the season, it's a long time ago. But who's the candidates, you reckon?
Elise's got to be in there.
Yeah, I would say Elise. I mean, I would say Eze, but he didn't play much. He only come on as sub. And I mean, the way he's played the last few games, you would say he'd be right in there. But he didn't sort of fixture much in the early part of the season. And he was only ever coming on as like a late sub with Patrick. If I was looking... Gaeta was quality early on in the season, so I've gone again. Where am I going?
They're still there.
There's a lot of comments in there. Mark Gee, Decore, Eze's in there. Wardy, that's a pretty good shout.
I think you got two. To be fair, I think you've got choice of two, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. And thank God Joe's not on tonight. But I'd say Decore has got to be up there, and I think Ayew, purely for his effort. How many games has he played? He's scored a couple of goals, but the effort he puts in, the free kicks he wins us, you've got to look at him, the way he's played this year. The consistency, you've got to say.
What I see, I can't believe, Jim, actually, you went for all those other players and you didn't say Mark Gahey.
Well, yeah, but I lost contact with you. I hadn't finished.
Okay. Carry on.
The two most consistent players this season have probably been Anderson and Gahey. And I'm going to go again because my phone or something's gone daft. Decore, Tim, he's done well. But Elise, he's been really good lately. But I think consistency over 38 games, I think one of the centre halves or even the goalkeeper, because he kept us in a lot of games early on in the season.
Yeah, I think the fact that he lost his place recently would probably mean that he doesn't quite edge it for me.
Yeah.
But I think for me, my vote would be Mark Gahey. I think he hasn't done anything. I think he's just been immense all season. Really good.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Okay, Fergus, who would you go for?
I'd have to say Mark Gee as well. Elise, I think's had a great season. I mean, there's quite a few players that you can mention, Wardy, Eze back end, but I think Mark Gee's been the most consistent. And the fact that there's plenty of teams sniffing around him now, wanting to offer 60, 70 million for him, he's obviously doing something right. So yeah, probably Mark Gee for me.
Tim, who are you going to go with if you had to vote for someone?
If I was going to vote for someone, it would be Decore. I've got to say, what he's been in the middle has been immense. But that's an interesting point that Ferg raises. And I think, you look back, and again, you've got to applaud Parish and Friedman signing the likes of Elise, Eze, Gahey to 5-year contracts. So even if clubs do come sniffing along, they're going to have to pay serious amounts of money if they want to, if they want to take them, which can only help us out in the long run. Yeah, certainly.
I just think that if we can hold together the players we have and add one or two, then I think we'll be a force. I really do. Why not? Why not?
And do you think that might help Mike Zaha to stay? If we can see that we can keep that calibre of player, is that something that might actually sway him to stay in the end?
I believe it would. Michael Elise here. There's a tweet there. 21-year-old has a contract at Selhurst till 2026. Palace are eager to tie him down for a bumper long-term deal. But to answer your question, Tim, I think that the more players that commit their future to the club, and if we add one or two more, then I think that's potentially a reason why Wilf might want to stay. I think with Wilf, we talked about this slightly earlier. My take on Wilf is this. He's got his contract on the table. Whether we agree with the £200,000 a week or not is another thing. But we're told that the contract on the table is £200,000 a week for 4 years, which is against the policy of our club at the moment, because they did say anyone over 30, 1 year deal only, blah, blah, blah. That's the reason that Cheki Koute left, because he didn't get his 2-year deal. Now, Wilf's a special case, isn't he? He's our talisman. He's probably the single reason why we're still in the Premier League after all this time, really, if you look at it. So they've made him this super duper offer. I think it depends what other offers come along at the end of the season. I think if he gets something that's really good that takes him to Arsenal or somewhere else, he might well leave. But I don't think, as Jim alluded to earlier, because of his age, because of his injuries, I don't think anyone else is going to pay that kind of money. I really don't. And therefore, that brings us back to the only other option being abroad. Does a Champions League team from another country come in and offer him a deal? I don't think he'll want to go and play abroad. I really don't. So that's why I think ultimately, I think he'll stay. But that's my reasoning. But I might be totally wrong. What about the rest of you? What do you think? Tim?
I kind of... The only thing... I'd like to see him stay in some ways. But then, as we've said over the past few weeks, look how well we played when he isn't playing. The freedom there seems to be when he isn't playing seems to go through the team. But then you look how we played yesterday with him. So I'd like to see him stay purely from the point of what I think he can give to the younger players in our squad.
Okay.
Like a mentoring,
Okay, that's what you'd like to happen. What do you think will happen?
I think he'll stay. I think
he'll
he will stay.
Okay. Jim, what do you think will happen?
I'm not sure, really. It depends what's motivating him. I mean, is it to play in a top 6 side and get Champions League, or money? If it's money, I would suggest he would go, because he's gone for nothing. He can get a £20 million sign-on fee from a lot of clubs. A lot of clubs will pay 20 million for a player like that. So it's a difficult one. But I was told by a very good source that he's changing his agent, and that's in the end of June. So he probably won't make any decision until he's got out of the agency deal he's got at the moment. I may be wrong there, but the chap that told me was very knowledgeable. So, but as a Palace fan, I'd love him to stay. Whether we'll get 4 years out of him, I don't care. But I think he's a great asset. And I think with the emergence of the other players, along with, we need another midfield player, a centre forward, and another fullback, then we'll have an exceptionally strong squad for next season.
Yeah, I think the story about the agent was in The Athletic as well. So I think there's truth in that for sure. What do you think will happen, Fergus, to Wilfried Zaha at the end of this season?
So I would like him to stay. I think he's going to wait and see what offers are on the table. Okay. I know that he's very settled where he is, and he does get homesick. I don't think he liked it up in Manchester. I think that was too far from home. So
he was younger then, though, wasn't it? It was 10 years ago. So
but I can't see him. I can't see him settling abroad. A lot of people are saying 200k a week is a lot of money for Zaha for 4 years. But then when you think about, he's on 6, he'll be on 9. So okay, the wages go up, but we're keeping a player that's potentially still worth 30 or 40 million pounds. We don't have to go out and spend that money to replace him. And we can bring in the defenders and the midfielders, that everyone's suggesting that we need in the chat to take that next step forward, to finish in the top 10, to maybe challenge for Europe.
Indeed.
And it's to have Zaha in any squad, you're only going to be stronger. So yes, I'd like him to stay. Will he stay? I don't know. I really don't know. I think if he's changing his agent, he's going to obviously wait to see what comes in. I don't know how long that offer will be on the table for him, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? Will he stay or will he go? We'll keep talking about this. This is like a soap opera. It will run and run until the end of the season. Here on the Red and Blue Review, we'll talk about this as long as you want us to talk about it as the season wears on. We've got 2 games left of this season, and then it'll all be over for another few months. And, of course, next Saturday, we go to Fulham. Some of us on a boat trip beforehand up the Thames. Always a tradition for that away day. And then we come to the final day on the Sunday, the 28th of May, for Nottingham Forest for the visitors. And I said at the top of the show, real quirk of fate that the 3 promoted clubs are our last 3 fixtures. Gives us a reasonable run. We've won the first one. How do we think we're going to get on next Saturday at the Cottage? Tim, your prediction for Saturday was rubbish. You got it wrong. You said a draw. What do you think about this weekend at Fulham, Tim?
1-1.
1-1 again. That's all he says. Yeah. He says 1-1 all the time. What about you, Jim? What do you think? How are we going to do?
Hopefully we'll get a draw.
You're going draw.
Well, I'd rather have a win, but I think a draw would be a good result.
What do you think will happen?
What do I think will happen? We'll get a draw.
Okay. 1-1 or 2-2 or 0-0?
I'm really good at giving you goals. 2-2.
2-2 we're going with Jim. Okay, and Ferg, I'll 2-1 for you, yeah?
Yeah, funny enough. But they've got Mitrovic back, haven't they? So, I think that's going to make a difference. It's going to make it a little bit more.
Did he come off the bench for them at Southampton and score? I think he did.
Yeah,
didn't
he
he?
did.
He did.
Got a diving header, yeah. From a corner,
okay.
I think, was it?
But don't forget, Anderson knows him well because Anderson played with him at Fulham. He was there at Fulham, wasn't he, for a season, Anderson? So
Anderson will break his nose as well. It's all good.
Yes.
I just hope we play better than we did at home.
Yeah, Mitrovic
really
won't
cool.
fancy coming up against Joachim Anderson, will he? Because he knows he's going to get a right hook if he's not careful. So, yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win like we won yesterday, 2-0. So 2-1, people saying.
Ian, don't forget, Mitrovic is from Serbia, and you know what happens.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Murdia and all that. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, Luka Milivojevic, he won't be playing, but he can give him a bit of stick on the side. So Nick, when he's on the show, he talks about Carl's Matrix. The Carl's Matrix says week 36, Palace cruise to victory, 43 points and 12th. And the prediction is we're going to finish on 46 points. So they think we're only going to win one of these games and lose one of them. I'm going to go for 2 more wins, but we'll just concentrate on next weekend for now. We've got 2 draws and 2 wins from the panel, and people in the chat are generally positive about how it's all going to go at the Cottage next Saturday afternoon. I'm looking forward to that one very much indeed. Okay, guys, so that is all for tonight. I think we've just shot over the hour mark. Don't forget, we are back again next Sunday evening. Hopefully with Nick Philpott returning, we hope. Next Sunday, the 21st of May at 8 o'clock. Until then, have a very good evening and a good week, and up the Palace. See you later.
Good night, everyone.